through, they call us the community entity for federal government funding for a lot of programs, social programs, including COVID-related funding. This was COVID housing money. The direction was it's supposed to go to something that is right now making a difference to low-income housing, COVID-related, and the money is, there are deadlines to all this stuff. There's a deadline to when you can pay it out. There's a deadline to when the people who get it or the organizations get it can start to use it. And the city's not going to be able to make those deadlines now. So I'm thinking that $800,000 is going to go somewhere else. But it will go into some other, we hope, project. The problem now is you're scrambling. We've been working with people knowing this might not fly. I think to me the bigger issue is the city just seems to be pretty routinely counting on grant money to do something. They don't get it, and there's no immediate backup plan. And there was another one as well. I think Joelle would have covered at council tonight, $600,000 for another project, or from another fund that was going to do the additional modular, or maybe these 10 units. That all hasn't been decided. They seem to think the 10 will still happen. But then all of a sudden they have $600,000 that they need to find a place for because the larger amount of federal money didn't come. So they went to the Mount and said, you know, what can you do? And they had a project, but it really put them in a bit of a bind because they wanted those units to be their first full rent units. That's a program at the Mount, they have to pay their own way. Right. And their deal was the first 65 units we develop will be geared to, well, they're 20% less than market. Then we can build some market stuff so we have some more revenue to make the whole thing work. And so to do a favor really for the city and to help people out, they took this money, which might seem like not doing a favor, but it means they're going to lose some annual revenue they were counting on. The city should be able to do, I think, a better job of being ready when they don't get grants.
Well, it's, you know, it's really chasing funding, and it's sort of, you know, uploading, dealing with downloading, but then having to chase the grants
and they're not always going to get those grants, but when they don't get them, they need to have a better alternative ready.
Joelle, I want to talk a bit about the Monaghan Road property because there was a concern that there wasn't enough consultation about even having this development go in there. When I look at that area, it's got medium density, it's got single family homes, there's an array of apartments right beside that facility. Are there some concerns that that's not a good site for this type of housing?
One of the autonomy ward councillors, Councillor Parnell, raised that concern that there hadn't been enough public consultation, that she would have liked the neighbors to have had more say in what type of use there would be for that property. She stressed the other evening that it would be homes for families that would go there, that it wouldn't be a shelter, for example. I think what happens, like what Jim was saying, is deadlines come into play. Like they bought that property, the city did in November, and then, you know, councillors didn't want to leave it sit empty while they plan an apartment complex for there. So they came up with this idea to put up those modular homes, but then they saw that their funding opportunity had a deadline attached to it that was very tight. Like they needed to apply in December for that money, and so now they didn't get it, and it's Plan B, right? So I think they're trying to do something good on short deadline, and it just, this particular plan didn't work out in their favor.
You know, Paul, it's almost like the city needs a funding wrangler, because we've heard this story before with the Twin Pad Arena, and you know, is that something the city, do they have a staff person that does this? Does it fall in the CAO or the commissioner there? You know, what's the answer to that?
I mean, somebody has to, I don't want to say answer for it because that sounds a little bit harsh, but yeah, if you're missing the boat consistently on these opportunities, then you got to take a hard look at why that is and take steps to fix it. I mean, the only thing more disappointing than not getting grant money that you've applied for is applying too late for grant money, really, and that you could have not easily had, but probably had a good shot at getting. And you know, if we all live to 100, everybody around this table right now, we're going to be talking about affordable housing, you know, for the next, you know, for the rest of our lives, you know, and at the rate we're going right now, because so it's just a shame that there was money on the table from what I understand, I'm not totally familiar with it, but there was money on the table that was there. For whatever reason, we didn't get our act together quick enough to be able to apply for it in time, and now it's gone. So as Joel said, it's Plan B, but as we all know, Plan B is never quite as good as Plan A, typically.
Yep. You know, another, before we move off the housing, another solution is something called tiny homes. I first heard about this in the Northeast US. I was doing some work down there a few years ago, and then we've seen a few sort of tiny homes or conversions go in, and I know my sister in California just started working for a tiny home company. She worked for a larger modular home company for years, so it's really starting to happen. Is this something this city is going to welcome? Jim, you've done some investigation on this.
The city hasn't been very welcoming so far. You know, there's concerns about how do you service them. There's no zoning that applies. I think the red herring is this idea that you're going to create little ghettos that people will point their fingers at and laugh when they walk by or something. But I think the city needs to, lots of places do zone for them. It's not magic to be able to do it. One of the townships already does it. There was a proposal to, and this is another one of those things where the city talks a lot about affordable housing, and they're doing a lot of good things, but they aren't doing very much in the way of deeply discounted housing. You know, the 20% less, 30% less of market rents. That's not housing that people who are on Ontario Works or ODSP can afford. And tiny homes could be. They were going to put the Mount had a deal with a group that was pretty certain they were going to get federal funding to make this work, and they never even got to the point of submitting a site plan zoning application because the city just made it clear that they weren't interested in changing the zoning laws and going through whatever had to happen to service these. Yeah, I think it will happen though, yeah. It's happening in other places. We won't be out there in front leading it, but it'll happen.
It could happen.